Welcome to the Institute for the Study of Youth Sport, Michigan High School Athletic Association Sport Parent Education Program. Sport teaches many great things to young people. Not only do they develop their physical talent, but their mental, emotional, and social abilities as well. They learn to work hard, persevere when things are tough, set common goals. They learn to win and lose with dignity and class. Now, as a parent, you're likely to understand these many benefits. Sport by itself, however, does not automatically build character in young people. Adults are needed to support and help develop this. Thus, you play a critical role in your child's total sport experience and the developmental gains they get from it. Now, let's take a look at parents like yourself and the many great things they do in high school sports.
High school sports are exciting and have become an integral part of the high school experience. High school sport provides a place for school faculty, staff, and students to gather in a fun and recreational atmosphere. Communities unite to support their local teams and athletes. Parents do many positive things for their children which make high school sport a wonderful experience. It is our hope that you will have an even better understanding of what it means to be a positive sport parent. However, some parents unknowingly have negative effects and tarnish the high school sport experience. When parents lose perspective of what high school sport is all about, trouble is around the corner. Parents behaving badly and espousing poor attitudes can undermine the educational benefits of the high school sport experience. Here are some high school athletes talking about experiences they've had with their parents in sport.
Sometimes parents live through their kids, and it's hard for the kid when the parent wants it more than the kid does. And the parents need to make sure why the kid went out for the sport in the first place. They need to love what they're doing, and if the parents push too much, the kids aren't going to want to do it anymore. And so sometimes adding that pressure can drive the kid away from what they wanted to do in the first place.
I think one of the biggest things is riding on kids. Like, they talk to their kids about only the bad things that they've done, what they could have done better, and how they could have made this shot or made this rebound. And they don't always focus on like the positive, like it was good defense, and I think it's better if you have constructive criticism rather than just plain criticism. I think it brings the whole team morale down because parents are supposed to be the ones that bring us up and are always there for us. And when they're the ones that are yelling and showing bad examples, then we don't have anything to look up to.
Some bad things that parents do when they're not positive for the team, when they're trying to bring down other players or the officials, that's pretty frustrating. And if my parents did it, it would be embarrassing. And it kind of takes the players away from the game when there's a parent screaming from the stands and they can't really focus on the game. They're thinking about the outraged parent.
The bad things that parents do is sometimes they get a little too involved and they get a little crazy in the stands, and that's kind of annoying as an athlete because you're trying to stay focused on the game and what your coach is saying and not looking up at the stands and what your parents saying and what they're saying. When they start yelling at referees, that's always a negative, and they're not teaching their kids to be good sports too. So sportsmanship is always a big key, and parents should follow the same rules that the athlete has to.
Parents, they're up in the crowd and you can see them talking about the coach or about other kids, or maybe even during a JV game where you're sitting there listening and they're bashing this person or the coach, or after the game they'll run up to the coach and, why didn't my daughter play more? And it's just kind of embarrassing. It's not the right time and place for that sort of thing. And it's just when parents are always doing that, then you can see it affect the kids too, because then they sort of become negative on the coach, and then that just affects the whole team because you're not together, because you have some kids that are getting negative feedback from home, so it affects how the whole team is together and how they work together.
Executive Director of the MHSAA, Jack Roberts, has led the charge in making athletics a fun, safe learning experience. Here's Jack to talk about the educational mission of the MHSAA.
I think that historically, school sports has been distinguished from sports on other levels or sports by other sponsors by 4 characteristics above others. Certainly there are others, but above others. One of those is scholarship. In school sports, we are more concerned with scholarship in high school than scholarships to college. And we know there are very few of those scholarships available on a percentage basis, and that kids and their parents would be much better off if our students spent a lot more time in the library than in the athletic arena, for there may be, I've heard, 70 to 170 times more dollars available for grants and aid to college for academics than in athletic. A second standard is sportsmanship, the environment at our events. While the volume might be louder, the kinds of behaviors at athletic events should be similar to the kinds of behaviors we allow in an academic classroom. We shouldn't allow any more disrespect at an athletic event than we would allow in an academic classroom. If this is school sports, then it ought to look like school and have the standards of school at the athletic event as well as in the academic classroom. So that's the second standard. The third standard is safety. Now, a lot of sports organizations at the youth level do a good job protecting the health and welfare of student athletes, and in school sports, we should be at least as good as all of these other organizations are. Sometimes we are, and sometimes we're not. But that's why we have physical examinations on an annual basis for our participants. That's why we have, for example, rules against the use of the head in blocking and tackling in football. We've learned some things that the youngster is unsafe if he leads with his head in those sports. It's why we have some protective equipment in high school sports that you won't find in college and professional. It's why we design the rules in certain ways to promote safety and not just excellence of play. We temper the excellence of play by making sure it's a safe environment. And the final S word, the final distinguishing characteristic of school sports is the sensible scope that we try to bring to the athletic setting. We think in school sports. We ask and we try to answer certain questions more than in other levels of sports by other sponsors. For example, we ask how early, how late, how many, how far, before it becomes unhealthy for the youngster, before it begins to interfere with their academic pursuits. We try to have a scope of school sports, a perspective in school sports that puts school before sports, academics before athletics, the health and welfare of the student before the competition of the event. So it's scholarship, sportsmanship, safety, and a sensible scope to our programs that we think is important in defining and distinguishing school sports from sports provided by other levels, on other levels by other sponsors.
Negative behaviors and attitudes from parents have profound influences on high school athletes, as you have heard from a few of Michigan's student athletes. The negative consequences for student athletes include they're embarrassed by their parent, they become distracted during the game. It creates pressure on them and even their team at times. It creates a bad model for how to act. My parent is yelling at the officials, so I'll do the same thing. It makes it tougher for the coach to focus on the athletes. And in the end, it takes the fun out of the game. For these reasons, the MHSAA has made a long-term effort to help parents make high school and middle school sports across Michigan an educationally meaningful and enjoyable experience. It is clear that parents play an influential role in high school sports. You make a huge difference in the quality of the high school sports experience, as well as what is being taught and being learned by our youth. The way you act in the stands, talk to your child, and interact with the coaches makes all the difference between a great and a poor high school sport experience. Parents must be good sports and live up to the educational athletics philosophy of high school sports. In the second part of this presentation, we will explore what is most important for you and your child in high school sport.